What is up, guys? It's your boy, Buffed Cactus, and today, Bungie just released a massive new article detailing the buffs and nerfs coming to weaponry in Season 22, arriving just next week. And so, let's get started. Now, first off, Bungie goes over a look back at the mid-season balance pass, providing these different graphs showing where weapons are performing. Not going to go over that in detail in this video because I'm sure a lot of you guys and myself are mostly just interested in what is actually changing. But of course, the main article is linked in the description down below. But talking about this new Season 22 balance pass, so some things to note. First of all, a global change that's going to impact a lot of people, they're actually nerfing double special builds. So, with the swap to infinite ammo, they say that using a special would result in more heavy ammo generation. This is a holdout feature from so far back. Basically, whatever weapon you're using, that ammo type drops less, and therefore the other ammo types drop more. But they are changing this, guys, so double special builds are going to be worse at generating heavy ammo. Moving on from there, we have some changes to reticles, quality of life stuff for hipfire. You can see it right here, a couple exotics affected. And then we have this huge overarching balancing change to zoom and damage fall off tuning. So, overall, what Bungie is doing is removing zoom as a factor in weapon range. So previously, if a weapon had really good zoom, so it would literally aim down sights and you'd be able to see further, this would also affect its damage range. It could do more damage for longer. So, this chart is going to showcase what the base zoom was for all these different weapon types, the base zoom plus the rangefinder perk equipped, and the new aim down sights damage fall off scaler kind of after this whole nerf goes through. You'll see that hand cannons and auto rifles are actually getting better than their base zoom after this patch, and pulse rifles are getting a little bit of a nerf here. So, Bungie continues here. They've rebalanced the base damage falloff start on several weapon archetypes to account for the new ADS damage falloff scalar values. So, sidearms increased at 100 range by 1.2, SMGs increased at 0 range by 1.3, increased at 100 range by 0.8, auto rifles increased at 100 range by 2.5, aggressive hand cannons decreased at 100 by 1, and pulse rifles increased at 100 by 0.5. And then Bungie provides this chart as the aim down sights damage fall off start distances in meters, so a 0 to 100 range stat. And you can see the values right here for yourself. So they say an example of how this works: an adaptive hand cannon with a range stat of 70 would have previously had its damage fall off start at 31.2 meters when you're aiming down sights, or 34.3 meters if it had rangefinder. Now, regardless of whether it has rangefinder or not, the damage fall off starts at 33.5 meters when aimed down sights. Now, moving on from there, we have special weapons and their base zoom and the new ADS damage scalar fall off with some notes here. You guys can see that right there. And then we have some custom-tuned exotic ranges that I'm going to put on screen right here. So, Ace of Spades, when Memento Mori is active, previously had a 10% damage fall-off penalty. The penalty has been increased to 15%. The Devil's Ruin previously had a 20% damage fall-off bonus. The bonus has been reduced to 10%. The Revision Zero now has a 4.5 times ADS damage fall-off scalar. Last Word now has a 1.1 ADS damage fall-off scalar. The Crimson now has a 1.3. Vex Mythoclast now has a 1.5. Forerunner has a 2.x. And Ariana's Vow has a 2.4x. So, I know that's a lot to take in and pretty complicated, but the gist of it is there's going to be a significant rebalance when it comes to ranges, and previously when you had like certain weapon sights that had high zoom, that would massively increase your performance at range. That's not going to happen anymore. But moving on from there, let's talk about weapon archetype changes, firstly to hand cannons. So this is a big one. In general, they've increased the reload speed at 0 by 15% 15%, so they're just gonna reload faster. Now for PvE damages, they've increased damage against minor combatants, red bars, by 20%, and they've increased damage against major combatants, orange bars, by 75%. This is absolutely massive, guys. I will just say also for heavy burst, they've changed the Warden's Law to become the first member of a new subfamily, heavy burst, and it fires a 2-round burst. But again, with hand cannons, this is a colossal damage increase, so certainly bring your Fate Bringers out of the vault, get those ready to go for next season, and if this applies to exotic hand cannons, oh my goodness, stuff like the Malfeasance is going to be absolutely busted next season, so I'm excited for that. Moving on from there, for bows, in general, they've reduced the minimum reload animation duration from 0.5 seconds to 0.3 seconds. This means that applying reload speed scalers on top of a high reload stat will still have an effect, and they've increased the projectile velocity at full draw so that the projectile will continue to perform as if they were hit scan at longer distances at higher frame rates. And then for lightweight bows, they've equalized the full draw projectile velocity with precision bows. Moving on from there, for SMGs, this is a weird one, guys. Bungie says they fixed the RPM stat display to correctly show 720 rounds per minute, and they just say they've actually always fired at 720. It's just been saying 750 as a glitch. Like, what? If that's true, that's wild. Or is Bungie trying to sneak a little nerf in and they don't want us to check? I don't know. That is really weird to me. Then for sidearms, for the aggressives, they've reduced the base damage from 32 to 30. They said it was just too easy to get body shot kills. Then for pulse rifles, the BXR Battler, the Halo-themed pulse rifle, they're increasing the zoom back to 20. They just said that it feels the best with that zoom, so there you go. Then for shotguns, in general, they fixed the impact stat on the Comedian, not a big deal. Fusion rifles, in general, they fixed an issue where Adept Masterworks and Enhanced Intrinsic Perks were decreasing the damage dealt by fusions when they changed the charge time stat. Moving on from there, for wave frame heavy grenade launchers, the size and damage of the self-damaging AoE is reduced. I remember that thing would always kill you if you shot remotely near your feet, so you're going to be able to do that. So for swords, this is a big one, guys. Strap in for this one. For Sword Guard, okay, so the energy now recharges after a short delay when used, but recharges much faster. The delay before recharge and the recharge rate are both governed by the guard charge rate stat. This delay ranges between 2.7 seconds and 1.05 seconds, decreasing with charge rate stat. We've massively increased the rate energy returns after the delay to compensate, and they increase even more at higher charge rate stats. Even after the delay, swords now return to full energy from empty faster than before this rework. So I guess they just want you to have that delay before it recharges so it's not a continuous recharge. Then full power heavy attacks can now be used with any non-zero amount of sword energy, rather than requiring full sword energy. Interesting. We massively increased sword guard damage resistance, giving it between 82.5 and 95% damage reduction depending on guard resistance stat. This damage resistance value is sharply reduced against other players like glaives. Then it provides between 52.5 and 65% damage reduction depending on guard resistance stat. Sword Guard no longer loses energy when taking damage. As a result, the guard efficiency stat has been removed, and Sword Guard duration is now increased across every guard type, with those with shortened durations benefiting most. Sword Guard talent nodes have had their stats squished down, so they've combined with the above. Even though their stats have been reduced, their damage reduction, charge rates, and guard durations are now increased across the board. This allows origin traits and other sword perks more room to increase these stats and allow performance beyond their previous maximum. Sword Guard talent nodes now visually affect the charge rate bar on the inspection screen when you hover over or select them, similar to other stat affecting nodes. And sword movement speed while blocking has increased from a 0.75x multiplier to a 0.85x multiplier. And lastly, the Lament exotic sword has been special cased, so its charge rate and delay are unaffected, but it still benefits from the increased guard damage reduction and duration. Whew, so basically, guarding with swords is going to be significantly more effective, and oh my goodness, that's going to go well with the buffed Titan exotic gauntlets. Moving on from there, guys, exotic weapon changes. First of all, for Monte Carlo, Bungie says, we finally did it. It was mechanically the most complex catalyst we have ever done, requiring a host of custom animation work and a lot of things we have never done on a weapon before, but we hope you enjoy. And they actually have a video of the Monte Carlo exotic catalyst in effect, so it will, as you can see, actually let you use the Monte Carlo blade like a glaive. So that is very, very cool. Can't wait to try it out next season. Moving on from there, we have the Quicksilver Storm. They say they fixed an issue where ammo was loading into the Quicksilver Storm slightly too late in the reload animation. For the Dead Man's Tail, they fixed the displayed impact stat. This is cosmetic only. Damage per pellet is unchanged. For the Two-Tailed Fox, it will fire a 3-shot burst with the catalyst instead of 3 rockets out of a 2 burst. For the Verglass Curve, so Whisper of Fissures detonates now generate Hail Barrage stacks if the stasis crystal was created by the weapon. The Shiver Quiver now activates when slowing enemies, and we increase the slow stacks from 40 to 60 when hitting players directly with Hail Barrage arrows. This allows for a freeze if 2 Hail Barrage arrows hit the same player. Then guys, the La Monarch, the nerf is finally here. So they've reduced the draw time from 684 milliseconds to 612. Then they've reduced the body shot damage from 100 to 85. They've increased the critical hit multiplier from 1.5x to 1.6x. So crit damage against players is going from 150 to 136. And they've changed the poison dot effect. So they've reduced the poison damage over time duration from 3 seconds all the way down to 1.75 seconds, so nearly halved it. Then they've moved from 8 damage ticks to 6, but poison deals the same total damage to players. And then the poison damage increased in PvE by 50% kind of to compensate for these nerfs. Moving on from there, the Vex Mythoclast, they said that the RPM was reduced from 390 to 360 to match other high impact auto rifles. And they've increased the damage against minor combatants red bars and major combatants orange bars by 25% in PvE kind of to compensate. I'm not a big fan of this change. I don't know who's been abusing the Vex Mythoclast, but I certainly haven't seen it. And having a different RPM distinguishes this exotic from, other auto rifles. Now just is going to feel similar, but we'll see how this plays out. So for the Tommy's Matchbook, they've updated the Scorch value. So it was previously 14 plus 7 with Ember of Ashes equipped. Now it's 15 plus 5. Interesting. Moving on from there, we got some big changes to the Touch of Malice. So they've increased the final round damage in PvE by 20%. They've decreased the self-damaging from the final round from 10 to 7. The final round can no longer kill the user. Then they've increased the health awarded by the Touch of Mercy perk from 30 all the way to 75, and they've set up Touch of Mercy to work like Unrelenting. So Guardians and Major Combatants give more points towards activation, and we increased the time allowed between kills. And the Ball of Darkness now appropriately deals arc damage and will blind combatants and stun unstoppable champions. Guys, whew, that is a lot of different changes. First of all, yeah, you can shoot this now infinitely and never die. So you'll be at 1 health and literally anything can kill you, but if you're in a safe spot, away from the battle, you can potentially snipe whatever you're shooting at with those now 20% more damaging final rounds. That is really, really cool. And now the fact that this can deal with unstopped champions with its alternate fire mode is very, very good. Moving on from there, the Malfeasance, they fixed an issue where the Vorpal Weapon Catalyst wasn't displaying the status buff text. Then for the Cloud Strike, they've reduced the lethal kill distance of the Lightning Strike against players. Cool guy in shambles. Then for the Wicked Implement, the timing window for creeping attrition has been increased from 3.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds, and you can now also activate Tithing Harvest by destroying stasis crystals, and the Wicked Implement Exotic Catalyst now also includes the Headstone perk. I thought the Wicked Implement wasn't the most powerful thing, but it definitely had some use cases in just stun locking champions, so this is a pretty neat buff, and remember, it's likely for stasis to be a featured element next season. Moving on from there, guys, to weapon perks. First of all, for Bipod, that just gives you 2 rounds in the mag, they've reduced the damage penalty from 40% all the way to 25%. So nearly just halving that reduction. Bipod could be really, really good next season. Then for Envious Assassin, there is no longer a time limit after kills within which you must activate the perk in order to get it. So the perk will now activate even if the magazine is overflowed. It will stop activating once you hit the maximum magazine size of 2.5 times or greater. And the Enhanced Envious Assassin now provides fractionally more ammo per kill instead of a longer window of time after a kill. So that could be a lot easier to activate. So the Cold Comfort rocket launcher, for example, that's looking a lot better now too. Moving on from there, for Under Over, so it now provides a bonus body shot damage against players with Woven Mail, and it increases the bonus damage against combatant shields, and it deals significantly increased damage to enemies who are enhanced by Dark Cabal Overshields in addition to enemies shielded by Lucent Moths. So, it could be alright. I still think it's not going to be used very much. Then, Under Pressure, they've reduced the maximum accuracy cone scaler from 0.5 to 0.75. Then for Shoot to Loot, first of all, it no longer triggers the reload when shooting a special brick that could not be picked up while also having an overflowed weapon equipped. But also, guys, explosive damage now interacts with Orbs of Power, which is huge, which means if you have explosive payload or kinetic tremors, which some god rolls are Shoot to Loot plus kinetic tremors, you can literally vacuum suck up all of the ammo and now the Orbs of Power in that area of that explosion, which is very, very good. Then for the Valiant Charge, this perk now deactivates as intended after a single swing. Then for Ambush, so it no longer deactivates from healing, fall damage, or being shot by allies. Then Explosive Light, they fixed a bug where in the enhanced version of the perk was granting 2 stacks on the initial orb pickup. Then for Chill Clip, big nerf here unfortunately, guys, they've reduced these slow stacks from 60 down to 40. So that's really important. You need 100 slow stacks to freeze an enemy. So this means you won't need 2 shots of your Riptide to freeze. You'll need 3. And the Wolfpack rounds no longer trigger this perk. So unfortunately, having one person with Chill Clip on the team with Wolfpack rounds is not going to absolutely juice it up or anything like that. So big Chill Clip nerf, unfortunately. But guys, moving on from there, we have some big changes to weapon progress earnings. So they say while the Shuro-Chi style of weapon level farming is not ideal, instead of nerfing that, we want to give bonuses to other ways to increase your weapon level. So that's going to be great. So we're boosting activity completion progression across several activity types: Crucible, Trials, Dares, Wellspring, and Gambit, and Platinum score completions of Legend and Master solo lost sectors. Which is fine, but the problem with this is who the heck is going to bring a brand new, just crafted level 1 weapon with trash perks into Trials of Osiris? Nobody. So you're still going to go into Shirochi in a safe environment till you can get the god roll you want, and then maybe you can bring it into those activities, and then you level it up to level 30 for ornaments and stuff like that. But like, again, I don't think that's a huge change here. But also they say we're adding the capability for progress that exceeds the current level to roll over to the next level. They had some gremlins that wouldn't let them do that, but that's happening in Season 22. And they say to round out the weapon progression changes, we're also adding the capability to directly increase a weapon's level through currency expenditure. So they say crafted and enhanced weapons will both receive a new mod slot in their weapon details, where you can spend glimmer and enhancement cores to boost the level of the weapon. This mod will increase the weapon's level directly, leaving your existing progress towards the next level untouched. While there is no cap for how far you can boost the weapon's level to, the cost of boosting will increase relative to the level of the weapon. Weapon usage is meant to be the main path for increasing the weapon's level. However, with the restrictions of how many weapons you can level at a time and the always increasing expansion to the amount of weapons that have a level, we want to provide an alternative method for leveling that allows for both the jump starting of crafted weapons and also the ability to level a larger amount of weapons stockpiled in your inventory. We did not want the level boosting cost to feel prohibitive. However, we want players to have to make the choices in which weapons they want to boost. Okay, that's huge. Like I said, no one's going to go into trials to level up their weapon, but hey, now you give it a few levels, you at least unlock the base god roll, and then you can play activities with it to level it up enough to get the enhanced versions of the perks, right? And especially when you have certain weapon types like sniper rifles and scout rifles, those can be a lot harder to level up than an SMG, for example. So this little boost could be very, very good. Moving on from there, they have some crafting economy changes. Another change we are making is that resonant and harmonic alloys will be depreciated as a required material and will no longer be obtained during dismantling starting in Season 22. We are planning on removing these materials entirely from the game at some point in the future, but until then, your remaining materials will be available to exchange for Glimmer. And alright, well, yeah, I guess you don't need alloys anymore, except for, I guess you'll still need Ascendant alloys for masterworking perks. Then, the Neomuna weapon pattern acquisition. So in Season 22, we're making some additional changes to help tackle the scarcity problem. So you can read those right here. It's going to be easier to get those weapons unlocked. And then, guys, Bungie actually ends this topic with a huge look forward at crafting, saying, while we believe crafting is more in line with our original vision since the launch of the Witch Queen, we're still making necessary changes to the system and are in the middle of developing a large crafting-related feature targeted for the final shape year. We'll provide more details about these upcoming changes after they've spent a little more time in the oven. We're excited to share more. So some sort of large feature is coming to the whole crafting system. Very excited for that because I do like the crafting system as a whole, but definitely it could use some improvements. Whew. And so, guys, there you have it. Those are the changes, some pretty big changes to be sure. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.